my training to become a rabbi took place at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, Cincinnati, Ohio campus. So you probably understand why we never had any athletic teams. Because there's no way you could cheer for a team with a name like that. Can you imagine? Let's go! Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion, Cincinnati, Ohio campus. Let's go! It's not going to work. Imagine watching television late at night. That was the news, not of sports. In the Seminary League, it was the Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion, Cincinnati, Ohio, Campus 79, the Jewish Theological Seminary of America 76. See, our time for sports is up. Now the weather. At the seminary, I learned more from our neighbors than I ever did from our professors about the strength and the tenacity of Jewishness. My wife and I lived upstairs from a pair of newlyweds in their mid-50s. He was an ex-Catholic priest. She had been Jewish all of her life until she met and married him, at which point she converted to Catholicism. Theirs was not a marriage made in heaven. They used to fight all night, and in the morning she'd come up and cry her eyes out. One day he was off doing an errand. She came up, gave us her latest series of complaints, ending with words I will never forget. She said, every day, I pray to the Blessed Virgin that he'll just get in this car and drive away forever. Sei gesund. At the seminary, I was able to squeeze a 5-year program into 6. Now, the year in Israel was not part of the curriculum back in the late 60s, so after 3 years I went to Israel primarily to learn spoken Hebrew. And I had some biblical Hebrew on my belt, so it was kind of difficult, especially during the first weeks. For example, I can still see the look on the cab driver's face when we pulled into our neighborhood, and I said to him in my Hebrew, "Behold, here I descend." I had to call that landlord and explain we were receiving bills for the previous tenant. I wanted to say to him, "Anachnu mikablim cheshbonot." He said, "Ma, what?" I said it again. He said, "Mazeh, what's that?" And I realized, instead of saying "Anachnu mikablim," we receive, I was saying "Anachnu mechablim," which means we are terrorists. We had a custodian, the head custodian at the branch of the Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem was a man named Gad Granick. God is a perfectly fine Hebrew name, one of the tribes of Israel. I was amused, though, when I would hear the English secretary yelling down the hallways, oh God, the ladies' toilet overflows." I learned something there in Israel, too. You can do this experiment on your own. Call any Jewish organization in America, and you know what you hear? You know, Shalom B'nai Israel, Shalom Jewish Center, Shalom Jewish Federation. Call any number in Israel, you know what you hear? Hello. That's how we do it. Another fantasy, I always had lots of fantasies. Another fantasy of mine would be to fly El Al Israel Airlines and order non-kosher. Could you imagine that? Hakshivu, hakshivu. Would the passenger who ordered treif please identify himself? I did a kosher one time. I was flying over to Moscow to visit refuseniks around 1982, kind of cloak and dagger time back then. It was during Passover, and I was on Lufthansa Airlines. The food came in an aluminum dish. On top of the food was wax paper. Around the wax paper was aluminum foil. Around the aluminum foil was saran wrap. On top of the saran wrap was a little sticker with O's, U's, K's, and 3 rabbi signatures. Well, I tore away the sticker with the O's, the U's, K's, 3 rabbi signatures, got rid of the saran wrap, picked off the aluminum foil, lifted up the wax paper, and there was my Passover meal, a bagel. Because when I was in Israel, it was long before we had cell phones, late 60s. I had to make a call from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. I dialed in and I heard, "Please deposit 8 tokens." I said, "Gee, I only have 7. The voice said, "All right, I take 7. And I wanted to see how people from other lands worship. So I went to a synagogue that had been established by people who had come from Iraq during the early 50s. I didn't know the customs, so I sat next to a fellow my age. When he sat, I sat. When he stood, I stood. Everything went very nicely until about halfway through the service. He stood, and of course I stood, and people started laughing, giggling, and pointing. And he grabbed me by my shoulder and shoved me back down in my seat. And I found out later on what had happened was there was a baby naming taking place. And the rabbi said, "Would the father of the child please?"